Hey, everybody, we got folks getting set up. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started to make sure that we can honor everyone's time for being here. So, first and foremost, let me say thank you for joining us. Thank you for getting here on time. And we're trying some new team approaches to this workshop, which was supposed to be in person. And I want to say our apologies for having to move it to online only. We certainly were looking forward to seeing you in person, but sometimes the best laid plans don't work out. And that's a really good thing to recognize when you're doing stuff like business planning. Because as you make your plans heading into next year and beyond, you are going to not always hit your goals. And that's okay. So our goal was to be in person today and to stream that in-person webinar or in-person event workshop online. So we are now just here online, and we've got a lot of folks that are going to join us, hopefully live on our Facebook feed as well. So we're using StreamYard. If you're not familiar with StreamYard, it is a platform where you could do a Zoom webinar like this and blast it out to your social media feed live. And so it's a really great app. If you do anything like this, I recommend that you take a look at it. It's, I think we figured it out, so hopefully we'll go off without a hitch. And so with all of that backdrop, let's get started. We are here for the annual business planning workshop. If you've been with us before, you know that we've been doing this for a few years now. We started during the pandemic, and frankly, I use this workshop as an anchoring point myself as we at Sage Business Counsel start looking at the next year ahead for our own business. And this workshop just really forces me to get very serious about looking forward to what we're going to do. And in the past, I was a solopreneur by myself, and then I started to add a small team. And now we're growing, we're adding more team members. And we have plans to continue that growth and to scale the company forward. And in order to do that, I have to be willing to take time as the leader of the company to focus in on the big strategic vision. And then I can lean in on my team to actually execute it with me, because of course I can't do anything without them. Just the same way that you, even if you're currently a solopreneur or you're thinking about getting started, maybe you just have a couple of people. We're not a huge team here either. Just remember, like, you're going to set these plans, but you have to focus on it, and you have to give them a roadmap so that they can understand how best to help you. And when you're in the grind of constantly doing it by yourself, I know personally firsthand, it's really difficult to ask for help and to lean in on your team. But this is designed to be a team effort with you, the owners, once you have actually got a decent roadmap in mind. You got a pretty good high level design for what next year is going to look like for you. So let's move on. I'm going to just run through our content here really quickly. First, we're going to talk about identifying your top 5 objectives for the year. We're going to talk about the 5 pillars of sound business, which is a framework that we use at Sage Business Counsel to help our clients, and also in how we think about our business and the different components that make it successful. And then we're going to go into each one of those pillars in particular, and we're going to talk about how do you think about planning in those areas of your business. And I'm going to give you little tips and tricks based on legal issues that pop up and the types of things that might not be well known or well talked about, because frankly, business planning is not a legal function. Like, let's be serious. I'm not a CEO of a huge corporation. I don't have any grand business planning, certificates or background. I'm just a business owner And I happen to also be a business lawyer. So I get to see under the hood of a lot of companies, and we help them start their companies, build their companies, get out of trouble, collect money, go after other people that maybe they need to facilitate something within their business to protect their reputation, for example. And so we do these things, and we do them in confidence and confidential and privileged relationships with companies. So we're not able to really talk very publicly about things that we see like specifically. So it can be difficult sometimes to demonstrate how much legal impacts businesses, but the reality is that legal touches every facet of a business. Every single thing that you do in business is impacted by legal and regulation. So we try to help the business planning process with the added risk mitigation. That's what our primary roles are as attorneys for businesses. It is to mitigate the risk that is inherent, obviously, in every business. And then as we kind of close out, we're going to talk about how do we integrate these pillars into our business plan. Now, we did send out a business plan template. So if you didn't receive that, don't worry. We will send it to you. If you did not get it, or you're online and you're not even sure how you were supposed to get it, please message us. Please send us a DM. You can comment if you're live streaming on our social platforms. You can put it in the chat here on Zoom. And of course, you can always reach out to us directly as well. My email is Danielle, Danielle, at sagebusinesscounsel.com. And just remember, counsel is COUNSEL, not CIL. So sometimes that can get tripped up. Now, this is basically what your business plan template is going to look like. And so this is just a resource that we've provided to you in Word format so that you can modify it. It has our copyright on it because this presentation is copyrighted in the sense that this is our representation of these ideas. But I don't claim to be any magnificent business guru, as I just mentioned to you. A lot of the information in this business plan is stuff that I have received through other advisors, coaches, and mentors in my own journey. And so it's really kind of like a hodgepodge of different things. And I will start mentioning some of those ideas and tools and resources to you throughout this presentation. So please be sure to take some notes on some of the resources that I've relied on to get to a place to have this template, which is a living, breathing document that I modify and change over time. So let's get started. Like, what is a business plan? Why does it matter, right? We started out talking about how the best laid plans often don't get hit. In fact, this year, we're going to probably hit about 58 to 60% of our gross revenue target. Not that impressive, okay? If you're looking at it from the standpoint of where we were trying to hit. But if we look at the standpoint of where we came from, actually we're going to be looking at about a 75 to 80% growth rate from last year. And we're very proud of that because in the midst of this economy and this world turmoil that we're seeing, that means so much to us because we too, like every other business out there, have experienced negative impacts on our business this year in 2023. But despite all of those things, we are still making great progress. And the reason I think is because of a mission statement. Mission statements are like the North Star of your life, your business journey. And it really helps you stay on track when new ideas come at you that maybe seem really great on the surface, but really aren't contributing to that overall mission. And this is also the way that you are able to communicate your unique value propositions to the marketplace. So our mission here is to keep more companies out of court and in the black. That means that we want to help them stay out of litigation and lawsuits, and we want to help them be profitable. And if we achieve that mission, then we know we're going to change the woeful statistics on small business failure. And if you don't know those, they are a little shocking. Within the first year, 50% of all new businesses fail. So if you've made it past a year, congratulate yourself. By the year 5, half of those have now dropped off. So if you've gotten to year 5, wow, that's quite an achievement. And then by the time we get to 10 years, only 10% of new business startups are still in operation. And the pivotal change that we see happening with our clients and other businesses that we see in our other communities that we're in, which is a lot of entrepreneurial communities that we participate with. And what we constantly see is that the businesses that focus on mission succeed. And it really helps them set themselves apart from the rest of the pack. So as we're thinking through this business plan, I want you to think about, why is it important to develop a mission statement for my business? And we're going to be engaging with you on some polls, but you can feel free to drop in at any time, and engage a conversation with each other about these ideas. I can't engage very well. I'm not very good at multitasking, so I'm going to stick to the presentation. But our team is also here to engage with you as well. So please feel free to post questions that you might have. We would love to hear from you guys. Okay, so after, the mission statement is kind of our starting point. Now, sometimes a mission statement can't really be developed until later. And so if you don't have a strong mission statement at this time, that's okay. The way that you can help develop a good mission statement is to think about the objectives that you want to achieve, because that ultimately is going to help reveal what the underlying mission that you may be seeking actually is. So let's take a poll. What is the most important thing that you can achieve for your business in this coming year? Go ahead and give us a line and let us know what you think is the most important thing that you can achieve in your business this year. Okay, we've got some answers coming in. Keep them coming. All right, we'll give you guys about 30 more seconds. Chime in. I see some folks are not participating. What if you don't know what might be the most important thing for you to achieve? Do you have any questions about how you might think through that? We'll be happy to take those questions down, answer them in chat if we can, or even follow up with you if you have questions about how you might think through that. Because I think by the end of this, if you don't know the answer to this now, you probably, at least hopefully, will have more clarity. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap the poll up. Now, let's see. Val, I'm not sure if you can see these results. I can't. Okay, well, guys, I gotta say, I don't know how to see these poll results, so epic technical failure on my part. Okay. Trying to get my team to help me here. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing, guys, because maybe you can see it, but I can't, which means I really can't engage with you on how you actually responded. So We'll take that down for some feedback to Zoom. Okay, so as we're looking forward, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and take some guesses about what you might have put here because frankly, I just couldn't see what you put. Probably you're thinking I can launch some new products or services. Possibly you might want to try to expand your market reach, right? What new customers can you serve? Possibly you're going to think through hiring some new people. And so these are the things that we're going to talk about today. So going into the objectives, we like to look at 5 objectives because we align that with the 5 pillars of sound business. And so basically for each pillar, we would like to have one core objective. And so when we're walking through these pillars together, you're going to start to see some themes around this idea of kind of grouping everything together and thinking about it from a big picture approach. Okay, your executive summary is going to be the icing on the cake or the cherry on top. If you are actually working from a previous business plan, you may have an executive summary. I do see folks that have kind of some boilerplate executive summaries sometimes that are like, we want to be the best, we want to be the best business law firm in the world, or like that sort of idea. That's totally fine. You can definitely start from something like that. But ultimately, that executive summary is kind of like that mission statement. It really will emerge after you complete your plan or you update it with the new ideas that you have, because it's going to actually be kind of that high level roadmap that you're going to present to your team as you start to fill out the details of each of these objectives. So the very first thing that we have to start with in any business, of course, is a demand, right? We have supply and demand. If there's no demand, there's nothing to supply. So we always want to start with the idea of the growth pillar. That's the very first pillar of the 5 pillars of sound business. And if you are coming from any other business plans, you might see sales and marketing separate. That's fine. We tend to lump them together because in today's world, the sales and the marketing has become so intertwined that really they are one and the same in many respects, because a lot of the marketing tools that we're using now, like social media, for example, are also ways to actually sell. And so that line is getting a little more blurry as traditional advertising sort of phases out somewhat. Maybe not completely, but of course we are seeing that shift. So marketing is really, the purpose of marketing obviously is to bring the opportunities, the leads to the sales team, okay? And the purpose of sales, of course, is to go ahead and produce a conversion into a new customer or client so that the production team, the supply aspect of the supply and demand relationship has something to produce. So if you want to reach revenue goals, revenue being the very top line is the revenue, you have to, of course, set some metrics around sales and marketing. So when you're looking at reverse engineering revenue targets, you'll find in your business planning worksheet that we shared with you some frameworks that you can think through. And again, this is a Word document. I'm not saying that you need to do it this way. I'm not saying that there may not be other metrics that are important to your business. These are just very generic, suggestions for you based on different things I've seen and done with clients and also obviously on my own. But the idea here is that if you're looking at the gross receipts, which is this third column here, if you want to hit $350,000 in revenue for, let's say, 3 different widgets that you produce, 3 different service offerings that you have, 3 different products that you sell, whatever that looks like, whatever your offering is. You might see these on your P&L as those income levels, right? And then you can break out where those sources of income are coming from. If I want to keep it equal and I love all 3 of these services equally, then maybe I'll just say, I want to hit $1 million. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to aim for roughly 333 to 350 each. and I know I'm selling them for this amount of money. Some of you may have very specific, like this package sells for this amount, this product sells for this amount, this scope of services sells for this amount, and you may have a very specific value here for your offerings. Others of you may have a little bit more of a broad reach in terms of your actual different types of pricing points on an offering. So if you have different pricing points on one of your offering, you're going to want to take an average value of those different price points on that offering. If the offering obviously has a specific price, you'll just go ahead and use that here. But the math is that you want to start with your target first. You want to know how much you're going to sell each unit for, and you want to divide your target number by the unit cost, and that's going to tell you about how many units you need to sell in that category of offering. Okay? And then if you want to start breaking it down into monthly targets, you're going to then just divide that number of units that you need to sell by 12. Now, that is a very linear way of looking at this. And if you've been in business for any period of time, you know sales can be cyclical. Sales can ramp up over time as, you know, the marketing efforts ramp up and the capacity ramps up. So yes, of course, this may not be a linear, I'm going to sell 167 of widget number 1 every month starting in January. Okay. And so there is some more advanced math that you can do here. And I suggest that you do work with an accountant or some kind of financial analyst to help you with that if you've already been able to get good sales. Maybe if you've gotten over 250, 350, you're heading towards $500,000. If you haven't started to kind of look at this, thinking through like the numbers per month, then it's a really good time to start doing that on a projection of scale and like when certain things happen in your business. That's a little more complex than what we have time for today. So I'm not going to go too deep into that, but I do want to acknowledge that this is a very high level kind of starting point to start working down the math on this stuff. So if now I know that I need to sell roughly these number of units for each one of these offerings, what I can now do is I can start setting targets for the month, for the week, for the day, for the quarter, however you want to set it. It's up to you. And you're going to just start using these as guideposts so that you can actually reach the gross revenue target for next year that you have in mind. Now, if you were here in the beginning, you heard that we are not going to hit our revenue goal for 2023. But I'm not crying about it. The team isn't crying about it because we are actually making huge improvements over last year. And so remember that when you're setting these targets for gross revenue, they are just a guidepost. But if you don't have anywhere, if you don't have a map, and if you don't have a guidepost, you're not going toward a destination that's specific. You're just meandering. And if you're meandering in your business, you are creating risk. You are creating risk. And that's what lawyers like me get really nervous about, because you're not even thinking about how to rein it in. You're just out there doing any old thing at any old time with any old person. And that is very risky in business. So when you're going through your year next year and you've set these targets, you want to monitor that revenue. Ideally, you're going to be looking at financial reports that we suggest to you towards the end of this. But you're looking at how many sales did I make? What was the total revenue? Who's going to be responsible for reporting it? What budget do we have to actually get these sales, right? How do I get this number of people to come to me? And that's where we start to look at, okay, I've got a gross revenue target. Now I have to actually start working down on a marketing plan. And that's where we get into how will we spend the marketing budget, and how can we determine whether that marketing spend actually performed well for us, So that's leading into the second part of your pillar number one for your growth engine of your company. What activities are we going to do to actually try to drive participation with us? In your business planning document, you will see where we start talking. Let me go back to that one so we can kind of point it out. We start talking about, okay, what kind of marketing activities are we going to go or use this year, right? So you might use print ads. That's one of the samples in our document. You might use Google ads. You might use social media dollars, ClickFunnels dollars, whatever it may be for your business. You may go to trade shows, right? You may do events, live events like this, right? Like how much do those things cost? So what is the activity that you are doing? How much does it cost your company every year to actually expend those dollars? And then what are the predictable number of leads that you can get from those sources if you have that data? Now, if you don't have that data from the past, there are ways to get it with like marketing research groups and things like that, where you can start looking at, what the industry standards and averages are. But if you have any data within your company, start there. How many people are calling you every year, every 3 months, whatever it may be, and just start from where you are. And then you want to kind of keep track of that conversion rate, because all of these metrics here are going to help you understand how much it costs you to obtain every new client based on that particular marketing activity. Okay, let me take a brief pause here and have a moment of accountability and transparency, because the reality is it is extremely difficult to get to this level of granular detail when you are a small, scrappy company. So I'm not going to sit here as though when you open the hood of Sage Business Counsel, we have our specific marketing plan with every activity and the cost of acquisition for every client that we've actually achieved from that activity. No, but we do track sales calls, referral sources. Did they convert over? We are looking at how much money are we spending on these events? Is it actually giving us any return? It is a metric that we are measuring, even if we're not doing it fully, completely, and in a nice, beautiful spreadsheet every time. You just have to start somewhere, and you need to just start from where you are. There are great tools out there that will do it for you. Okay, so for example, for our law firm, we use a client management system, file, whatever they call it, case management system is what they call it. It's basically a CRM, but it's specific to legal. And so in that not great system, which I won't name here, we do the best we can with the tools in there. And so they're a little rudimentary, but again, a lot of the apps out there will help you. And I mean, there's so many now, it would be ridiculous for me to sit here and try to name them all. But some of the big players, of course, are places like HubSpot or Salesforce, like that sort of CRM dashboard, where you can see exactly where all these dollars are going and what kind of return you're actually receiving on them, to help inform you to make sure that you're spending money in the right places. So the key takeaways for the first pillar in your business, which is growth, as you're looking at your business plan and thinking about filling out all these details, is that you have to have a marketing plan in order to be able to sell anything. So if you are a person who's been a traditional kind of solopreneur, or you're kind of the head and the face of the company, and you're the only real driver of revenue in your business, your referrals and reputation, if you want to scale your company, if part of your growth plan for next year is to continue to grow your company, you will have to start making a more concerted effort to having a diverse marketing plan and starting to scale your marketing plan out so that you can have more reach and bring in more leads to fuel more revenue, so that you can hire more people to produce more results. And that's how you're going to grow your business. You cannot effectively grow a scaling company on reputation alone. You have to engage with marketing. So if you are trying to hit a revenue goal, but you're not really doing a lot of marketing, or your marketing is haphazard, or you're only relying on one source and not any others, you're only on social, you're only at live events, you're only doing print ads, that is not a successful strategy. You really want to spread your wings out there. And then the other tip that I really want to point out for the first pillar from a legal perspective and compliance perspective is that your marketing matters. What you say matters. And the way that you represent what you do or the products that you sell matters very much. And you have to have truth in advertising and everything that you put out there. There are state and federal laws around this stuff. Another important thing to think through are things like ADA compliance, specifically with websites. More than that, but that's a big deal right now because many businesses do not have ADA compliant websites. Your terms of service are extremely important. If you're just using boilerplate stuff, that is a risk. That's a big risk for you. Your sales contract and the terms that you have in those sales contracts matter. And so you really need to make sure that as you are focusing on your growth engine, if this is an area where you need to spend time next year really focusing, make sure that everything you're doing and spending time and money on is compliant with the rules and regulations out there. And you can look them up online. They're not all that secret, okay? If you look into truth in advertising, one big example I like to give is the licensed and insured. And in fact, I tried to take a picture last night at the grocery store. I couldn't get a good one because it was dark, but it was so ironic because I was having this workshop, and I saw a pickup truck that had licensed and insured on the back of the truck. It didn't say anything about what it did. It said licensed and insured and a phone number. I assume there must have been a logo along the sides of the truck, but licensed and insured is one of the funniest things to me as a lawyer that I see everywhere all the time that honestly could be unfair business practices, false advertising. Licensed and insured means what? Okay. If you're saying you're licensed, you're saying that you are a regulated industry. You are a lawyer, a doctor, you are a contractor who has to be licensed. Not all contractors in Georgia have to be licensed. So if you don't have to be licensed, you can't say that you're licensed because there's no license that you could actually obtain. A business license is not a license that you can advertise. It is literally a way to pay local taxes. That's all a business license is. It is permission to operate in your local municipality or county. It's nothing more than that. Insured how? Is your truck insured? Is the workmanship, is your work insured? Do you have errors and omissions policies? Are we talking about general liability insurance over your physical space? Insured is potentially false advertising if you are not being very specific and really understanding these words that you may be using out there because you see everybody else using them, okay? And just because everybody else is using them doesn't mean that it makes it okay. And if you happen to be the unfortunate soul who gets caught in an allegation that you said you were licensed and you're not, or you said you're insured and you're not because I had an issue and there was no license I could attack, or I had an issue and there was no insurance policy for me to recover against, that could be found as intentional misrepresentation in the marketplace, and a worst case scenario, fraud. Or it could be negligent misrepresentation, unfair business practices. Georgia does have an Unfair Business Practices Act. Most states do, maybe all. I couldn't speak to that. But there are federal laws around this stuff as well, like I said. So make sure that as you lay these plans, especially to bring money into your company, that you're keeping things like that in mind. And local organizations like the SBA, the SBA is there to help you when you're starting up, you get a loan, like they'll help kind of guide you to these other organizations like ACE. There's a SBDC. There's all kinds of organizations out there where you can get free resources. You may need legal advice, okay? So if you have a more advanced company or you have more advanced issues, you probably will have to retain an attorney to help you because some of those resources are very basic and they're not really advanced level stuff. Just, FYI. All right. So as we're going into our second pillar of our company, we used to talk about this just simply as these are backwards. I realize that these are actually backwards. On your business plan, you're going to see these in the right order. But in our slide deck here, we overlooked this. Actually, the pillar number 2 is for production and delivery. So it's reputation. It's fine, guys. We're going with it because the only reason we're not in person today is because I have not been feeling great. So we didn't really have all the ducks in a row this time around, but we appreciate your grace. So if you're looking at your business planning document and you're confused, it's because actually pillar 2 is not culture. It is actually for your production cycle, which is your reputation. Okay. So just know that. Go ahead and go down to pillar 3. Thank you. Thank you for your grace. Okay. Let's talk about culture and then we'll move into production. So human resources is the culture backbone of your company. Why? Because it's the people, and culture only matters because of the people. But it's important that we start thinking about culture in terms of culture within and culture without. Because the culture within your company is what informs the culture without your company. And what I mean by that is that the culture of who you are as a business owner, who your team is, who you're hiring to work with you, that culture seeps into the customer service aspect of your company. And that's the ultimate, culture infusion. If you want to create raving fans, it's a culture infusion from the inside to the outside of your company and all of those stakeholders out there that you're trying to impact. So let's do a poll. If you could hire one more person in 2024, who would be? And as you're thinking through this, here's some tips for your planning and some tips for answering this question. If you needed to hire one person, would they be a remote person? Would they be in person? Would they be hybrid? Do you need to change your model to any one of these 3 based on the circumstances of your business, your community, your economy? Do you think you need full-time help? Do you need part-time help? What's the biggest pain point in your company? If you're a solopreneur and you're trying to expand out, probably your biggest pain point is your production team. Getting somebody else in to be that technical expert so that you don't have to. So if you're experiencing some frustration around human resources and culture, it may be because you're still holding on to too much of the production work and people around you can't get anything done because you're still the one who has to do production, but you're also doing sales and marketing and financial controls and management and all this other stuff. So if that's any of you out there, trust me, been there, going through that now, trying to get the right legal team in place, right? Getting the right attorneys, getting the right paralegals, thinking through how do the clients want to receive these services? Who do they want to receive them from? And who is it that is going to help me be able to focus on other parts of the business that only I can focus on? If you are not really at a great place where you feel like financially, maybe you can't afford to hire, there's a lot of fear in the market right now, guys. Like, I am not ignorant of that. We're all watching the same news channels, and the market is a little scary right now, okay? But the market goes up and the market goes down. So thinking through that, I'm going to try to share the poll results. I don't know if anybody can see the poll results out there. But I can't even see chat, so I don't actually know what's going on with anything other than myself right now. So we'll just have to go with it. Hopefully you're getting some value from your chats and your polls. All right. So we've got about 66% of you responded. So I'll take it. I guess it's probably not worth responding if I can't really engage with you anyway. So I can't blame you for that. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen next time. Thanks for actually participating, for those of you who did. So what does it mean to think through your culture, your people? Now, culture really starts with core values. So you're going to see in that business planning workshop document, you're going to see the core values in there at the beginning of this pillar. And it's important that you define core values. Now, I am not going to focus on core values today because, again, this is a limited presentation. And, you know, core values fluctuate and people have different feelings about them. If you're a person who challenges whether core values matter, I would really like to push back on that, because it wasn't until I really thought through the core values of the company that I wanted to own and lead and be a part of before I really understood who I needed to hire. Because you can always find people with the right skill set, and you can always find people who are passionate about the mission. But if they don't actually have the same core values that you have, then you're not going to get any traction with them, because you're ultimately not going to be aligned from an ethics and values perspective. And so even though you might both be motivated for the same mission, and even though you may have the technical skills to be able to work together, you're not going to get traction. And I have personally experienced this a lot. And it's something for me where I had to kind of sit back and say, what is missing here? And it was the core values and thinking about, but how do we go about doing this in a way that aligns with me as a leader? Because our core values are, we challenge the status quo. So right off the bat, if you're a person who cannot be in challenging discussions or think outside the box, it's not going to be a good fit for you. It's just not going to be a good fit. We're lovingly candid. What does that mean? We speak up. We say things. We don't say things in a rude manner, but we are very direct with each other and with clients and everybody we deal with, because that's just the way that we are. And so it makes it easier to work with people that have thicker skin, and they're not going to be so intimidated by somebody saying, hey, I think we should try something else. That's not going to work very well. Or I don't think that idea is really the successful idea here. Not that we don't appreciate it, but let's not waste time going down a rabbit hole when that's not going to move the needle. The other part of us is that we value intentional growth. So we set targets and plans, and we try to do personal plans, and we want to make sure that we're always growing and being better. So if you like to stagnate, you just want to clock in and clock out, and you really don't want to be challenged very much, like, it's just not going to work. You're going to be very unhappy, and we're going to be very unhappy with you. The other thing is that we give back. So we like to do charity. We like to do things like this. We like to engage. We want to be able to give things to the community, give value out there. So if you're the type of person who feels super stingy about your time and your money and all that stuff, you're not going to work well with us, right? And freedom. We believe in freedom. If you think that someone owes you something, it's not going to work well in our culture, because we don't believe we owe anybody anything other than showing up to be our best self, out of the fact that we're coming in as the people that are A players, not because we're here to service another need outside of the mission that we all agreed to. So if somebody doesn't want to stick around, we support that because we want them to have freedom in their lives as well. So I'm kind of off on a tangent here about core values, but I want you to understand that those are super important for the reasons I just explained. And if you're skipping over core values and you're still having problems with people, it's probably why. And I can say that now I know why to hire somebody and why not to hire somebody. When somebody's not working, I know they're not working because guess what? The values aren't aligned. Maybe it's a target issue too, but that's it. When people decide to leave, it's a values issue. And it's something about where we're not aligned. Okay. And you can't always get it right, and that's okay. And some people think they can do what you're asking within that culture, and then they find out that they can't. So that's okay too. So as you're thinking about those next key hires, full-time, part-time, where are they going to work? You also want to remember that your people are your number one investment in your company. And I see a lot of owners that get very entitled about this stuff, guys. They're like, well, I just pay them so much money and I give them all this stuff and they don't do anything for me. Now, if you have somebody within your company who is actively sabotaging your company, like intentionally, they're causing an issue with you, and you're doing all those great things as a great leader in a great company, that's a different thing. I'm not talking about somebody who is actively sabotaging. I'm talking about everybody on your team. Somebody doesn't do the thing you asked them to do, or they don't show up at the time that you wanted them to show up. And your first thought in your mind goes to, poor me. You've got to really flip your language around this stuff. Employees are not costs of doing business. They are investments in your business, okay? Employee manual, there needs to be an outline of the rights and responsibilities and consequences of breach. We have an employee manual. Any W-2 employee that signs on with our company has to sign this employee manual because it tells them important things about paid time off, holidays, discrimination, harassment, how do they report it? Like, they need to know those things. When are we open? Like, all those very important things, confidentiality of information, protecting the business assets, like agreeing that they're not going to disclose that stuff. That's important for you to have in your company because it demonstrates to your employees that you are there to give them the guideposts. As you're growing your company, it's really difficult in the beginning to have this stuff in place. And frankly, for us, like our employee manual, I probably should update it more than I actually do because usually it's about every once a year or so. But honestly, it really needs to be like a quarterly review. We just don't have the capacity at this point to do it that frequently. So again, just start somewhere. If you don't have an employee manual, we can help you with that. We can absolutely give you one and help you craft one to what you need in your company. I also like to take this opportunity to talk about 1099 versus W-2. I really have to stress here, guys. We had recently a conversation where it was revealed that a client had every person working for them on 1099. I'm not saying there's no reality where maybe that's appropriate. It would probably very much depend on the structure of a company and what you're actually doing. But if that's the structure that you're working with, I would put a big red flag on that, and I would suggest that you find some time to speak with a qualified attorney about 1099 versus W-2 status. Please don't take that for granted. The penalties for violating those withholding laws with the IRS alone are so draconian. I mean, I think they're like $25,000 per violation. Per violation, every paycheck is a per violation, okay? Until their status changes with the Department of Labor here in Georgia and with the IRS as a W-2, if you're issuing 1099 contractor payments, presumably any of those transactions would qualify for a penalty. So please don't take this for granted. You don't want to have a fight with the IRS, especially if you're a small business. You will know when you need to add people once you set your sales and marketing goals. So to tie it back into that growth engine, you're going to know what type of workforce you need once you understand how many customers, clients you need to serve, or how many products you need to produce, because that's going to tell you your capacity needs, okay, for your production team. Now, HR is about more than just production teams. Of course, you have all of your sales and marketing teams, you have your finance teams, you have other managers and things like that. But specifically with respect to the capacity and production, sales and marketing really helps you understand what that should look like based on the targets that you have. Okay, so again, if you're looking at your worksheet, we're backwards here. Reputation is actually pillar 2. So don't be alarmed. We like to shoot from the hip sometimes when things don't go as planned. But just make sure you backtrack in your document if you're following along on that business plan. If you did not get it, just a reminder, please let us know, drop a chat, reach out, let us know. We'll be happy to send it to you. Okay, so your reputation is really going to be driven not by the stars that you have on Google. Yes, of course, that's important. But really, it's more, reputation has more to do with the actual production and delivery of your goods or services than it does your online reputation. And the reason is because as humans, we are online, yes, of course. And maybe if you're driven, if your business is e-commerce and you're very much driven by online sales, you probably are leaning a lot more on online reputation in the sense of those, nice shiny 5 stars. But I want you to look a little deeper into reputation as a component of the goodwill of your company, and that comes from the company's reputation for how it produces and delivers those goods and services. So you're looking at customer onboarding processes, right? What do you do to get them onboarded, right? What are the steps, the activities that are part of that process? Whose role is it to do that, right? And when do they do that? Okay, so this is after they've gone through sales and marketing, they've converted. How do they get into the pipeline on a service? This is a service model primarily here, of course. But this could also be part of the e-com onboarding process. Let's say they go ahead and click buy in the cart and you send them a thank you email, right? Who does that? When do they do it? And then after they complete that, who do they hand it off to so we know that that production cycle continues? Some of this might be automated, right? It may just kind of click over in a process in an app somewhere. This is something we're actively working on right now in our business because, like I was mentioning earlier, our CRM is not ideal in the case management software that we're using, and so this gets a little fuzzy for us. And so we're trying to figure out a better way to transition the client from sales into production. And then the checkpoints. This is another part. Our customer journey is a big focus for us right now because we really want to make sure that the reputation of our firm maintains itself as we scale up. And I'm no longer doing all the legal work and I can't watch every single thing like I used to be able to do. I want to make sure the process is controlling everything so that the customer experience is to the quality that we want it to be to, because that's what they're paying for, right? That's what they deserve. That's what they asked for when they decided to sign a check or pay a credit card invoice. So through the checkpoints, this is just, when are you going to check in, right? So one of the things we've been focusing on is entering in a net promoter score email check-in a couple of weeks after the client has engaged. And we haven't fully implemented this, but this is on one of our project lists. And we want to get that response submitted into SurveyMonkey. If you don't know about SurveyMonkey, it's a great tool. It's got a free aspect to it as well. I think we're on the free plan actually. And it's just a way to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to refer Sage Business Counsel to a friend or family member? I don't even know if it says friend or family member. I think it just says to refer. Well, that's an important metric because you just did 2 weeks in. So you went through sales and marketing and now you've engaged with the production team. But for our service model, and this is important, think about this, we can't ask them at the very end of everything that we do all the time, because at the end of what we do, they've been through the ringer of the legal system, for example. And if you go through the civil justice system, I'll use quotations, it's not a great, happy storyline, as you probably would assume. And so they're not always ecstatic at the end of what we've done for them, even if we got a good result, because it can be painful. So if we do NPS scores through that journey, we can now see like, how did it look in the beginning? Now that if it drops off in the middle of that production cycle, we got a problem. And now we know how we have to go fix it because something fell off. We were treating them really well. And then what? What happened there? Do we forget about them? I mean, typically we're not forgetting about them. We usually have to wait for a lot of stuff in a law firm. But like, is that normal is the question you're looking for when you start to see NPS scores, for example, deteriorate through that checkpoint cycle. So obviously you want to know what happens at the very end to close that sale up, wrap it up with a nice bow, and hopefully engage a future raving fan, client, or customer for your business that will either come back or refer you to other people. And so that's why you want that production and delivery cycle to be very deliberate and as seamless as it possibly can, which again, business is messy and we can have the best laid plans and it may not always go that way. But if you keep making small improvements over time and engaging your mind to think through the customer journey, your reputation will precede itself. And we don't do a great job with online reviews and stuff like that, frankly, because a lot of our clients, like, I mean, it's a confidential relationship and we help them with their business. And so we don't push heavily like we probably should on some of those online reviews. But our reputation still precedes itself because we are actively trying to ensure that the services that we're delivering are top-notch services and not just a revenue metric for us, right? And so that's how you begin to think of your production in a reputational way as opposed to just getting money, earned and in the door. All right. So takeaways here, of course, if you see problems, you want to fix them fast. Okay. If you have a production cycle or process, even if it's very rudimentary, at least you can understand when things go wrong. Okay. And then if you add information about your production cycle to your contract or website or other collateral materials that you might be putting out there, then your clients can be better informed. And this is another part that we started working on in 2023 with a client manual, trying to make sure that we're giving them some collateral to understand things. We're currently working on pricing menus and things like that for some of our flat fee services, so it can be more clear and they have something to tangibly look at. So, again, it's always a constant improvement over time. But you can refer them back to that literature. If you take the time to create it, you can refer it back. And that's a great tool because it helps your team stay focused on the actual production. And it also gives your clients or your customers somewhere to go to get the information that they need. Okay, so we're coming up on 1 o'clock. So we've got about another 30 minutes here. And we're going in the last couple of pillars. So I'm sorry to just be constantly talking without a lot of interaction because our poll function wasn't working. So I'm going to go a little bit off script before we jump into these last 2 pillars. And I'm going to take 2 questions. If anybody has questions, please unmute yourself because I can't see your chats for whatever reason here, probably because I'm working from my house today, unfortunately, and I don't have my other screen. So I can't see what you're chatting. If you have any questions about what we've talked about so far, please chime in. I'm happy to take some questions here just to give us a little invigoration. Yes, hi. Great question. Awesome question, Julio. Okay, so marketing spend, there's a couple of different ways that people typically are looking at setting targets for marketing spend. There are industry metrics that you can find for your specific type of industry. There's a great tool called liveplan.com, where you can actually put your business plan into LivePlan. So like when you use this worksheet, you can then take this kind of information and go into an app like LivePlan, and you can help incorporate your data into this really wonderful online application. And there are industry benchmarks that will tell you the average percentage of revenue that is spent on different aspects of business growth. And so that's one way to do it, is to use a benchmark like an industry standard. Because you're right, not everything about your marketing spend is going to go directly to a conversion. And that awareness and raising the awareness is important. With social media, you can raise that reach and awareness in different ways that really don't cost a lot of actual ad spend dollars, for example, right? So, but you do want to include the cost of the marketing team that is responsible for delivering those marketing tasks into your community. So for example, if you have a marketing assistant and you have an annual salary for that marketing assistant, and their sole job is social media, the marketing spend for social media is that person's entire cost of the business, plus any of those ad spends that you might be looking at specific channels to actually see ROI to conversions. So awareness through things like social media is very important, especially now, but it can also be a large cost. And so you want to be looking at how much reach are we gaining, and is it in the right target audience? Are we reaching the right specific audience? And that's another way to see ROI, is the growth of that community within the demographic that you're trying to hit. And every single social media platform, I think at this point at least, does something like that for you. But then there's also platforms like Metricool, Hootsuite, it starts with a B. There's one really, Buffer. Buffer is another one. And those are places where you can actually see the traffic and where it goes, and which channel is most successful. And so, yes, definitely that's going to cost a nominal amount of dollars for the app like Metricool or Buffer. But the person that's running it, like, that's a big line item on your budget. So you want to make sure that you're looking at some kind of standard, like an industry standard. That might be 5%, it might be 10%. And then some people are going to increase their marketing spend because maybe they're in a rapid growth cycle. Growth sucks cash. So a very high marketing spend could also indicate I am actively trying to grow rapidly. So it is very fluid. Thanks for that great question. Anybody else have any other questions? If not, we'll move on. Okay, so we've talked about, yes, we have to sell and market, we have to produce and deliver, we've got to have a good culture to get the right talent in the door. But what does any of that mean at the end of the day if we're not talking about the long-term legacy and impact that the business is going to have? There's no reason to start a business and invest time and money into a business and not think about what is the long-term play on this business? What is the goal of this business? Do I want to have it all the way into retirement? Do I want to flip it? Do I want to sell and dissolve? There's all kinds of ways you can dispose of your company at some point if you want to, or just let it go, or maybe you want to pass it on to your children. Like, you should think about that. What is the purpose of this? Otherwise, it can be futile, and you can lose a lot of money, honestly, if you really aren't looking at that long play. So that's what Pillar 4 is about. It's the ownership and the management of the company. And that is what that legacy is. Ownership includes also future equity interests that might be infused into your company as you grow. You may give equity to certain C-levels within your company. You may have new partners that want to buy in and work with you and actually help you grow your company. You may decide to give off equity to your children as part of an estate plan, for example. You might do some crowdfunding where you give away certain types of economic rights in your company. Okay. So that's what ownership is about. And then management is about the day-to-day overseeing the operations of the company. So when you're looking at your business plan, you want to be thinking about how are we training and developing our management and our ownership. Now, if you're a solopreneur, it's like, well, I mean, it's just me. Like, what else? What else can I be doing? Like, don't sell yourself short here, okay? Because you're building something for the future. And so you got to start where you are, but you need to be doing training and development. If I told you guys what I spend on coaching, you'd lose your mind. You'd say, why are you spending that money? Well, I mean, I'm seeing 80% growth. I'm learning more about how to effectively build a business as opposed to just trying to get a bunch of dollars in the door. I feel confident that I understand exactly where I'm going. And I know that I am changing as a human and I'm becoming a better human by investing in that training and development, and it benefits my team and my clients. So seminars, they don't have to be expensive coaching programs. Like, do what works for you, do what works for your budget, but take some time off, take a couple of days, go, sometimes when I tell my team, like, gotta go, I need to take a few days, I need to take some hours, I need to step away from this for a second, because I want to make sure that the decisions that I'm making are well informed and well intentioned. So I'm thinking about my goals for myself. What are my financial goals? What is the organizational chart, accountability chart going to look like? If I take this thing that I'm doing right now and I hand it over to this person, what else are they going to do? Maybe that's not enough for a full-time salary. Do I have anything else I can give to them? How do I cultivate people to grow in my company? What kind of training programs? What kind of mentorship can I give them? Am I giving them feedback? One of the things you'll see in your business plan under the HR section is talking about doing those quarterly reviews, right? And you can do quarterly, you can do semi-annually or annual, but I really recommend quarterly. And sometimes we don't get to them, or sometimes they're late or whatever. Again, guys, like, this is not school. We're not trying to get an A, okay? We're just trying to pass. Passing means that we're acting ethically and intentionally, and we are showing up to give back to the people that are showing up to give to us. So you also want to think about advisors. Do you need a COO? Do you need an HR director? Do you need a general counsel, a coach? Do you need a bookkeeper, an accountant, somebody like that can grow into like a CFO position? For us, like, a paralegal can grow into an admin role, a COO type of role, which we call a professional legal administrator. A paralegal track can go there, right? It doesn't have to, but it can. And you want to make sure that your folks know, what does that look like for me here? How can I grow here in the company? And again, it doesn't have to be super fancy. Okay. So it could be, hey, welcome to our team. You're our new receptionist. You're on the sales and marketing team. Did you know that we have a marketing assistant here, and this person handles all of our marketing? But it would be great if you showed an interest in any of these specific types of marketing tasks so that this person didn't have to spread so thin, and maybe they could have some support. And if you want to grow in marketing, here's a great way to grow in marketing. If you're more interested in sales and intake and conversions, we can put you in a sales role where you can start making bonuses and commissions on the conversions that you have. That's awesome, right? But the person has to know they didn't just come in to be a receptionist and then, like, when they're tired of being a receptionist, they just find another job, right? So this is not just about the top level people. It's about the whole trajectory of how do you grow in our company, which is kind of the integration of the HR into the legacy, because humans, despite what they want to tell us about ChatGPT and AI, which we love and we endorse. We think it's amazing, but it's not going to replace humans. Okay. Like we're not going to be replaced. So we want to really make sure that we're cultivating a future path for those folks that are coming in. And ultimately that can create more freedom for the owners of the company who may want to move on to other things or just take a more relaxed seat or position within the company and not have to be that CEO every day. Maybe this year you're at a level where you're ready to hire a CEO to replace you. Every time I see friends, clients, or other people doing that, I am so happy for them. Wow, you found somebody that you trusted that much to give everything over to. Like, that's amazing. And that can be you too. And maybe it already is. But try to promote from within so that you can build that legacy with the people that have already committed to you. All right. So key takeaways. If smaller companies, again, document your plans, your procedures and tasks. This has been a big pain point for us because it's very hard to do this when you're running everything yourself. So transitioning from solopreneur to small team is usually more like, oh, we're just yelling at each other down the hall or we're just texting back and forth. Like, okay, but if you don't take time to start documenting, you add more people, it becomes chaotic. We've experienced that internally. If you're larger and you actually already have a management team and structure in place, you want to make sure that your managers aren't in the day-to-day production. There should be no reason that your production team needs to be engaging with your managers every day, right? Like if the managers, there's a great book, I think it's called the 1 Minute Manager. I think it's the book. Take a note, 1 Minute Manager. And the example in that book is basically that the owner's trying to get out of the weeds of the production so that they can grow the company. But every day somebody comes in and they say, oh, I need this. Oh, I need this. Oh, I need this. And the analogy is the manager sitting there and it's just another monkey that just got put on their back for everybody else's tasks. And it's the monkeys and they're just like all over the manager. And the manager can never get to their own tasks because they're doing all the tasks for everyone else. If that's you, which that's been me, that still is me in many ways. It is getting better in our team as well. And it's no one's fault but mine because I have to make sure that the clear procedures are there so that the monkeys don't have to come on my back. But if they don't know what to do, the monkeys got to come onto my back because I didn't make it very clear about what they were supposed to do. Now, one caveat here as well with this management structure is you have to have strong managers in place that are also willing to challenge people and say, well, what's your solution? Because if you create a culture where everybody looks to the manager to give them an answer, the manager is doing the work, not the people that are in the production team. And so the people in the production team aren't growing. They're not learning anything. And you're really not creating any efficiencies there, right? So just keep that in mind. And then you don't want to do any handshake stuff either with this type of thing. If you're going to add owners to your company, if you're going to put managers, high-level managers in place, you cannot do this on a handshake. You need to have very clear documents in place and employee manuals and roles, job descriptions, et cetera, especially for the high-level stuff. If you're not quite there with lower stuff, that's okay. But when you bring someone in that's going to be more what you do, like your day-to-day type of stuff, maybe they're helping you kind of grow your capacity, you want to make sure that's very clear because that gets into control and that creates risk when there are too many cooks in the kitchen and too much access and too much variation and control over certain things. And that can lead to absolute disaster within your company. You can literally lose your entire team. You can really impact your reputation very negatively if you aren't careful with that. Okay, so please don't do any handshake deals. Friends and family is challenging, guys. If you have friends and family in your business, I get it. I have had friends in the business. I've got friends in the business now. It's challenging. I mean, there's no other way to say it. If you're going to do that, you got to make sure that the person that you have there understands that that's a challenging situation and they're acknowledging it and everyone is very well aware and you're making sure that it doesn't impact the operations of the company. Okay. Now, our final pillar today is profitability. I think it kind of goes without saying, so I'm not going to go too long since I want to take some questions if anybody has any at the end. But these are the types of financial reports that we recommend. These were recommended to me by the various coaches that I've had. And these are the reports that I get from my bookkeeping company or accountancy firm. We actually have a bookkeeping accountancy firm, and we also have a tax accountancy firm. And I am actually going to be engaging with a fractional CFO as well, separately. So a lot of times I see clients, they don't want to spend money on their advisors, and they don't want to spend money on stuff like bookkeepers and CPAs. And I know in the beginning, money's tight. I get that. But honestly, like, if you don't know what is going on with your money, like, you're not going to go where you're trying to go ever. You're never going to go there. You got to know what's working and what's not working. And just because something isn't working doesn't mean you're not doing a good job. It just means that that particular focus needs to be the precedent for next year. For example, in our firm, we're looking at reducing expenses and some of the things that we invested in that we thought would grow us faster than they did, and trying to analyze, are those still good uses of money? Or do we need that or not? And do we want to keep paying for it, right? So you want to think through, like, do you need to increase your budget next year? And if so, how are you going to do that? You want to have a financial budget. You want to have an annual budget that you're working towards. That's your target. Like, I want to spend my money this way. And every month you can see, did I hit it or did I not? And please engage some qualified financial experts. If you need referrals, we'll be happy to make them for you. And you always need to know your cash position. Cash is all cash. Cash is all credit, all cash in your operating, all savings. Any sources of cash basically is a cash position. And you want to know where that cash is coming from and where it's flowing from, okay? From and to. So make sure that you are saying cash is king, flow is queen, okay? This is what my financial friends tell me. Cash is king, flow is queen. So you want the cash and you want it to move in and out as easily as possible, but it's got to be transparent, okay? Now, again, going back to penalties. So financials are very important because there's big penalties when you don't actually keep good records on cash and know where your cash is, okay? And absolutely, please never fudge on your revenue numbers or your profit numbers to try to avoid taxes. Let's take a poll before I go into the closing part to give you more information about how Sage can help you. What do you think I can see this one. So, wow, maybe that's why it won. We needed to give them some options. What do you think is the most important pillar of sound business for your company heading into next year? Where do you think you should put most of your focus? The reality is that you can't focus on all of them and effectively build a long-term vision for your company, because there's just so many things and there's only a certain amount of time in a 1-year period. So yeah, I'm seeing growth, seeing reputation. Let's go ahead and give a couple more minutes for folks. Couple seconds, I guess I might say. Profitability, awesome. Awesome. So we've got 60% saying growth, sales and marketing, growing, amazing. We've got 20% each for reputation, which is the production and delivery of the services or the goods, and then 20% on financial controls and profitability, which is great. That's amazing. And it looks like people are very confident with their culture and their people. So bravo. And it looks like folks are very confident with their ownership and management structures, at least for the time being. It's not the main focus. So growing your company, building a good reputation, and staying profitable are really awesome goals for this coming year, especially as we, head into what we all anticipate will be a pretty, um, a challenging economic climate. What we want you to know in closing and heading into Q&A is we are here to support businesses that are on a growth journey where they want to scale their companies and they want to do it in the way where they're going to keep as much money in their pocket as possible. Because what we know from our experience and what we know from the statistics is that a lot of companies go out of business simply because they don't have the right advisors helping them. And we've got banks, the SBA is an amazing organization, but the reality is that the SBA is really there to make sure that you get funding, you get capital, which is great because that can help you grow. But if you get a bunch of money and a bunch of debt and you don't know how to use it responsibly and you don't know the impact that it has on your personal finances, it's really irresponsible and it can put you into bankruptcy. And that's where I started, was working for the banks in bankruptcy. And I kept seeing over and over that business owners did not have the right advisors and they were making really bad decisions that they could avoid, but they just didn't have the right people talking to them about it. So we are committed to growing and expanding our transactional practice. And we've traditionally done a lot of litigation. But for those of you that are new to Sage or you've not heard much about us, or maybe you know us, but you don't really know much about our transactional practice, we started this back in 2020 and it has been amazing. We do flat fee production packages and we build our packages around a budget. So we set a budget, we have certain price points for our plans, and it depends on whether you're startup, solopreneur, creative, whether you're a growing team and you need more alignment, or whether you're a more mature company and you really want to start scaling up. We have different packages for different types of needs. And we work with you on a 3, 6, or 12-month basis, depending on what those needs are. We are giving a 10% discount to anybody who is on this webinar here on Zoom, or if you're live online on social media. If you want to learn more, you can use this QR code here to follow the link and get to the page where we're going to collect your name and your contact info. Because as we head into our 2024 planning and growth strategies for next year, we have some new pricing models. We have some new collateral I mentioned earlier that we can help you see what options are out there. And we'd like to go ahead and connect with you so that we know that you're interested in our services as we build our growth plan next year and our capacity planning. It will help us tremendously if we begin to find the interest that already exists and make sure that we can offer that capacity to the people that are already interested before we begin our sales and marketing strategies towards our plan next year. Okay? So please follow that link if you want to learn more. Now, we had a couple of questions, or we have one question. Okay, let's be honest. It was just one question. And we've got a couple minutes more. I'm happy to stick around for anybody else who can stick around. But I do want to at least go ahead and close out now and give you an opportunity for any questions you might have before we end today's workshop. Any final questions? Any questions about the business plan template that you got? Is it working for you? Did you get it? You can unmute if you want to engage in a conversation. Anyone? All right. Well, I'll stick around here for just the next few minutes. And if you have a question or it's popping up, let me know. If not, if you don't have any more questions, that's it for my content. I'm going to go ahead and just stick here and tell you a little bit more about what we do. So if you're not here to hear about that, that's okay. We won't hold it against you. I just want to take this time, since no one's chiming in with questions, to make sure that we give you a complete picture of how Sage works with companies. So we have startup packages for brand new companies that we basically work off of a couple of different types of services that you may need. For example, if you need an operating agreement because you don't have one, we will do that. We recommend that every LLC has an operating agreement. If you do want to do a C Corp or need to do a C Corp, which is very rare, but if you do that, we can create the bylaws for you. We can help go ahead and set you up for your company. In fact, we're going to be sending some more information out about this later in the year, but there is a huge change happening next year to prevent financial crimes. And the change is that every company that is registered with any state Secretary of State's office or corporate registry is going to have to disclose beneficial interest owners to the IRS. Well, not the IRS, but to the financial department. I forget, FinCEN is what it's called. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but FinCEN. And this is the Corporate Transparency Act. It goes into effect on January 1st. There are reporting requirements. If your company already exists, you will have to comply by the end of the year next year. If you start a new company January 1st or later, you have to comply within 30 days. So we're pulling together all of that information, and we're going to offer some more comprehensive information. But the point of that is that a lot of times we see startups and solos that are doing their own thing, and they're trying to put together all of these pieces. And it is very easy to go to the Secretary of State's website and spend $100 to create an LLC. That is not high-level brain work. We are very well aware of that. But that's just like the very beginning. That's like button number one of about 25 buttons that need to be pushed to make sure that your company is actually set up responsibly. If you engage an LLC, if you create an LLC, now the Georgia Limited Liability Company Act is going to govern all of the management of your company. It governs what obligations you have to creditors. It governs what obligations you have to other owners that may come into your company in the future, what obligations you have to the LLC itself, okay? If you have trade names, they have to be registered. You have to have business licenses, even if you're home-based. There's a lot of pitfalls out there that we see with the smaller companies where they think they're doing the right thing, and then something happens and they realize they're not, and it is devastating. So we have a small package for that to make sure that you get going. And we kind of lump creatives into that space only because most creatives aren't working really with a team, really. I mean, yes, there are other people that are helping, but usually those folks are more in an advisory capacity than they are sort of like a team approach. And so when we know that the individual is, I mean, the creative is the product, right? And so that makes it a little more streamlined on how we help them. And that's a different type of plan, of course, than like a business plan. For teams that are, when we say teams, we mean really if you have 3 full-time employees or more, because that's where the workers' compensation laws start to kick in. Once you've got 3, it's more than just a echo chamber of 2 people chit-chatting or texting or yelling down the hall. You now have to start having more robust communication channels. You need to be more concerned about data, control of data, employee manuals. What else do you have to comply with? Making sure that you're classifying people appropriately, things like that. So that's kind of like growing teams if you've got 3 full-time employees or more, or full-time equivalent FTEs. What I mean by that is that if you have 6 part-timers, you have 3 FTEs. You have 3 full-time equivalent employees. If you have a bunch of contractors that you work with, we see this with a lot of marketing companies and agencies where it's like I'm working with different contractors and things like that. We would consider that to be a team, not a solopreneur business model, okay? So that's where that can get a little bit gray sometimes. But when you are working with multiple people like that, that's where we can help you with things like employee manuals, independent contractor agreements. You may need some covenants, restrictive covenants, NDAs, non-competes, non-solicitations. You might want to start doing some licensing and things. That typically is going to be more on that scale side, but it can come up there as well. We do a lot of covenant defense when we have clients that are coming from other backgrounds into their own company, and they have certain restrictive covenants in place, non-competes and things like that. So we can help, bring people in and help protect you with documents that you may be afraid of. We can do things like send demand letters. We can do demand packages. We do lien packages for our contractors. And so that's where we're really kind of helping align the team so that they can work without the lawyer needing to be called all the time, but that you're also very well informed about when the lawyer should be called. And then we can kind of provide that ongoing counsel. So when something pops up, you have an employee loses a computer, or we've intervened where a client was to receive money, but their customer got a spam, one of those fraudulent spam emails. They sent $262,000 to the wrong bank account. We had to jump in and move quickly to get the two banks. We had to put the receiving bank on notice about the funds. I mean, like that sort of thing where it just blows up and you don't know what to do. When you're on a plan with us, we already know your company. So we already know how to help you, and we can really jump in there quickly and get things done. When you come off the street and you have a burning emergency, we've already been committed to other clients before you got here, and we don't really know you either. So it's very difficult to just jump in there and do something in a silo when we don't have a full comprehension of everything that's going on with your company, because we never want to do one thing that's going to cause a negative impact on something that we just weren't aware of. And it's very easy to do that with legal and regulation. And then finally, for the more mature companies out there that are looking to scale, this is where we get a lot of great traction. And the goal for us is that you start up with us, you grow with us, and then you start scaling with us. And we want to help you with our Chief Legal Suite, where we really help teach your company, your teams, your HR director, your COO, your CFO, all those people, how do I deal with an in-house lawyer? How do I deal with a general counsel? What decisions do I need to pull them in on? And that's where you start to understand that lawyers are the good lawyers, the ones that can really help you scale, are definitely going to be more strategic in nature than just those, transactional, I need a document, can I do this, lawyer? If you really have the right type of lawyer helping you and legal team helping you, they're more of a strategic advisor, and we can help your company learn how to work with them. And then once you're ready to hire somebody full time, we can help you understand if they're a good fit for you. And that's the really exciting stuff that we like to do. And we also help buy and sell companies. So merge, all those things on the M&A side. So if we can help you, let us know. Thanks for sticking around here. It's been a real pleasure. I appreciate that you were having grace with the technical issues today, as well as the fact that we didn't get to meet in person. But I look forward to seeing you guys in person soon. I know that the rest of this year is going to be hectic. Don't forget to come back to your business plan and set some time aside so you can really focus on this stuff and protect your company, because it's more than just building a revenue model and a profit model. It's about keeping those dollars, not having to spend them on litigation fees, not having to pay sanctions and penalties for not complying with regulation. You can make all the money in the world, but if the IRS or the Department of Labor or any of the other federal or state regulators come knocking on your door, CMS, the DOJ, we've done it all. We've dealt with all of it for our clients in medical spaces. When they come knocking on your door and you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in penalties, plus your legal fees out of pocket, it can wipe you out. I mean, truly, it can wipe you out. It wiped my dad out, and he ultimately had to file bankruptcy for his company. So that's my motivation to do this. This is why it's very important for me to take time to do things like this. I've benefited from great advisors in my life that helped with a lot of the things that I've learned around this content, as well as how I service other businesses as an attorney. And those coaches and mentors and advisors have been invaluable to me to really help me see how do I want to show up in the marketplace. Because some of them had great content, but really bad culture. Some of them had really good culture, but their content wasn't so great. Like, it's hard to find the right balance. But all of those pieces help you in your journey. And as lawyers, we get to be that confidential confidant and advisor that can't talk about what's under the hood. Nothing that you share with us can go anywhere at any time. And so it is a great opportunity to start working with an attorney firm and learning how to ethically practice business so that you can keep more money, grow more prosperity for more people, and create longevity for your team and your clients. So thank you guys again. I hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving, and stay tuned. We'll send some follow-up information if you are on the list for the event today. If you're not on that list, please do me a favor and send us a chat, or scan this and reach out that way. Get in touch with us. There's so many ways, guys. I didn't put all our social on this, but you know how to find us. And I hope you have a great holiday season, Thanksgiving and beyond. And I look forward to seeing all your great successes in 2024. And I thank you for being along for our journey as well as we continue to grow our business right alongside you. Bye for now. Bye, everybody.